I stared at the empty bedroom doorways, my heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape. Family betrayal cuts deeper than any knife, especially when you're left holding the bill. The suitcases were gone. Their beds were made with military precision, as if they'd never been there at all. My sister and nieces had abandoned me at the luxury Airbnb overlooking Savannah's riverfront, the one I'd emptied my savings account to pay for. They really left me here, I whispered to the vacant living room, my voice bouncing off the expensive furnishings. $3,000 worth of vacation, and they just left. My phone buzzed with a notification. A charge for $275 at a restaurant 20 miles away. They were already halfway home, spending my money as they fled. What they didn't know was that every single receipt, every dollar spent, was documented in my notes app. Every dismissive comment, recorded in my journal. Every fake smile I'd worn when they mocked my clothes, my accent, my very existence. It was all fuel for what would happen next. By tomorrow morning, they'd understand exactly who they'd been using all these years. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to how this all began. My name is Lorraine Harris, though most folks call me Miss Laurie. I'm 56 years old, born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama, but moved to Atlanta when life demanded a fresh start. I built my catering business from nothing, from food stamps to feeding corporate events and society weddings. My hands are calloused from decades of honest work, my spine straight from carrying other people's burdens. I never married after my first heartbreak. Instead, I raised my son practically on my own until he joined the Air Force and built his life in Texas. We talk every Sunday after church, and I've never once asked him for financial help. That's not how I was raised. My younger sister Denise, however, was cut from different cloth. She had 2 daughters by 2 different men, Tiana and Brielle. Both fathers vanished before kindergarten graduation. And who did Denise call when the electric bill was due? When the girls needed braces? When college applications required deposits? Me. Always me. It's just until I get back on my feet, she'd say, year after year. I'd nod, write the check, and watch as she bought designer purses while claiming poverty. I'd babysit the girls while she networked at nightclubs. I cooked holiday meals while they arrived late, ate, and left without helping with dishes. Why did I allow it? Because when Mama was dying, I promised to look after my sister. Denise needs guidance, Mama had whispered, her hand frail in mine. She won't make it without you. So I kept that promise, even as my nieces grew into mirror images of their entitled mother. They'd roll their eyes at my old-fashioned ways, giggle at my church dresses, mock my southern cooking while devouring it. Auntie Laurie and her pots and pans, Tiana would tease. Still living in the Stone Age. I smiled through it all. Family is family, right? That's what I told myself when Denise suggested a girls' getaway to Savannah. 4 days in a luxury Airbnb by the river, with a rooftop view and walking distance to the historic district. We need this, Denise insisted. Just us girls, reconnecting. When she showed me the listing, $750 per night plus cleaning fees, I hesitated. That was almost a month's worth of mortgage payments. I can't afford, I began. We'll split everything, Denise interrupted. You get the place, we'll handle food and activities. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags waving like surrender. But I wanted so badly to believe we could be close again. That maybe, just maybe, they might see me as more than a walking ATM. So I booked it. Dipped into my business account and paid $3,275 up front. The first warning sign came during the drive down. 3 hours on the interstate with my sister and nieces, and not once did they ask about my life, my business, my dreams. Instead, they took selfies and planned which nightclubs to visit. This trip isn't about clubs, I said gently. I thought we'd tour the historic homes, maybe take a ghost tour. Brielle, my younger niece, exchanged glances with her mother. Ghost tours are for tourists, Auntie. We are tourists, I pointed out. Tiana snorted. Speak for yourself. We're here to live our best lives. As we pulled into the Airbnb's driveway, my stomach tightened with a feeling I couldn't name. Something was very wrong about this trip, but I couldn't put my finger on what. Not yet, anyway. I didn't know then that in less than 72 hours, I would be standing alone in this beautiful home, staring at empty rooms and plotting something my family would never see coming. The pattern with Denise started small. A borrowed 20 never returned. Babysitting that stretched from hours into days. Emergency bills that somehow included salon appointments. By the time I recognized the pattern, it was too deeply established to break. Family takes care of family, Mama would say. So I did. When Tiana needed cheerleading uniforms, I paid. When Brielle's prom dress cost more than my first car, I wrote the check. I covered summer camps, cell phone bills, and car insurance payments. Always with the promise of repayment that never came. Next month for sure, Denise would say, eyes wide with practiced sincerity. Things are just tight right now. Meanwhile, her social media showed weekend trips to Miami and new designer shoes. The girls' pages flaunted expensive highlights and acrylic nails I could never afford for myself. 2 weeks before our Savannah trip, I sat at my kitchen table reviewing expenses. My catering business was stable but not extravagant. Each month was carefully budgeted: mortgage, utilities, business costs, and a small savings account I'd been building toward retirement. Taking $3,275 for a vacation meant delaying equipment upgrades my kitchen desperately needed. I called Denise to discuss alternatives. Maybe a cabin in the mountains? Something within budget? We already told everyone about Savannah, she complained. The girls have outfits picked out for River Street. You wouldn't want to disappoint them. Guilt. Her favorite weapon. Besides, she continued, when's the last time you treated yourself? All you do is work. That stung because it contained a grain of truth. My life was my business. While they posted about parties and shopping sprees, I was up at 4 a.m. baking for events, my hands raw from hot water and cleaning solutions. Perhaps this trip could change things. Perhaps 4 days together would help them see me, really see me, as more than just a source of funds. The universe seemed to test my decision immediately. The day after I booked the Airbnb, my phone rang with an unexpected opportunity. A luxury wedding venue was hosting an exclusive tasting event for potential preferred vendors. Exactly the kind of connection my business needed to grow. The catch? It was scheduled for the day after we returned from Savannah. This could double your business, my assistant Renee warned. You'll need prep time. Can you reschedule the family trip? I already knew the answer. Denise would never agree to change dates. Not when it concerned my business, something she'd dismissed as playing with food despite it putting her daughters through college. I'll make it work, I told Renee, ignoring the knot in my stomach. We'll drive back early on Sunday. That gives me Monday to prep. The week before departure, I worked double shifts to prepare my kitchen for my absence. While I chopped and baked, Denise texted daily. Can you bring your good camera? Mine broke. Don't forget beach towels. The Airbnb probably has cheap ones. We're thinking of renting bikes one day. Can you cover that too? Each request carried an assumption that my resources were theirs for the taking. The morning we left, they arrived at my house 2 hours late. No apologies. While I loaded their 3 oversized suitcases into my trunk, Tiana complained about my car's old person smell. The vanilla air freshener I'd bought specially for the trip. Brielle scrolled through her phone muttering, "This vacation better not be boring." 4 hours later, we pulled into the Airbnb's driveway. The house was even more beautiful than the photos. A renovated historic home with modern touches, walking distance to Forsyth Park. The afternoon sun bathed the front porch in golden light as the property manager greeted us. "You must be Lorraine," he said, extending his hand. "Beautiful property you've booked. The owner mentioned you're in the culinary business?" The kitchen was recently upgraded with a professional-grade range. Before I could respond, Denise stepped forward. "We're all in hospitality, actually. I manage client experiences." A complete fabrication. She worked part-time at a department store. Tiana snorted behind me. "Folding sweaters at Macy's is client experiences now?" The property manager's smile tightened. "Well, let me show you around." As he led us through the house, Denise and the girls raced ahead, claiming bedrooms and taking photos. I trailed behind, calculating the cost per square foot in my head. When we reached the rooftop deck with its view of the Savannah skyline, the property manager handed me the keys and a folder of information. "The security deposit and cleaning fee have been processed," he said. "Just a reminder that payment for the stay will be charged to your card upon checkout." I froze. I thought it was already charged when I booked. He checked his tablet. "It shows here as a hold only, not a full charge. Is that a problem?" Before I could answer, Denise appeared at my shoulder. "Everything okay?" Her voice was sweet, but her eyes flashed a warning. "Fine," I said, forcing a smile as my calculations doubled in my head. The money wasn't gone yet, but it would be, plus whatever additional charges they racked up along the way. The property manager left, and as the door closed behind him, Denise turned to me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Let's get this vacation started," she said, raising her phone for a selfie. "Smile, Auntie. No one wants to see you frowning in the photos." I smiled, but my mind was racing. The security deposit, the pending charge, the wedding tasting event waiting for me back home, and now Denise's lie about her job. Something told me this weekend would cost me far more than I'd budgeted for, in ways I hadn't even considered. The first morning in Savannah dawned with humid heat already pressing against the windows. I woke early. Old habits die hard when you've spent decades rising before the sun to prep kitchen stations. For an hour, I had the house to myself, coffee on the rooftop deck, watching the city wake up, planning our day. By 9, I'd prepared a southern breakfast spread, buttermilk biscuits, cheese grits, fresh fruit, and coffee. The smell of baking should have drawn them from their beds, but the house remained quiet until almost 11. Tiana emerged first, AirPods in, making a beeline for the coffee. "Is there oat milk?" she asked, not bothering with good morning. "No, just regular and almond," I answered. "The biscuits are still warm if—" "I'm intermittent fasting," she interrupted, though she reached for a biscuit anyway. "Where's the jam?" Brielle appeared next, already dressed for photos in an outfit that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. She picked at the food, taking careful bites between selfies. "We should hit River Street first," she said to Tiana, as if I weren't there. "There's this cocktail bar that everyone's posting about." "You're not old enough," I reminded her. Brielle was only 20. She rolled her eyes. "It's a vacation, Auntie. Nobody cares." Denise finally appeared at noon, hair wrapped in a towel. "What's the plan, girls?" She surveyed the breakfast table with disinterest, reaching for coffee. "I thought we'd visit Forsyth Park and then take the historical homes tour," I suggested. "I printed tickets yesterday." 3 pairs of eyes turned to me with identical expressions of disdain. "We're not here for a history lesson," Denise said. "Let's hit the shopping district. The girls want to check out that boutique we saw online." My printed tickets, $45 each, would go unused. Just another expense written off. While they dressed, I cleaned the kitchen. Scraped plates of barely touched food. Washed dishes. Wiped counters. When did I become the help instead of family? As we walked through Savannah's beautiful squares, the girls stayed 20 paces ahead, stopping only for photos. Denise drifted in and out of shops, emerging with bags she casually handed to me to carry. By 3 o'clock, my arms ached with their purchases and my wallet was lighter by $178. Just a loan until we get to the ATM, Denise had insisted at the jewelry store. Let's take a break, I suggested as we passed a charming cafe. My treat. For once, they agreed. Over iced teas and pastries, something remarkable happened. Brielle asked about my business. How many weddings do you cater a month, Auntie? Surprised, I leaned forward eagerly. Usually 4 or 5. But I'm hoping to expand. Actually, when we get back, I have this tasting event for. God, your hands look rough, Tiana interrupted, eyeing my fingers wrapped around my glass. You should get a paraffin treatment while we're here. They do wonders for old lady hands. Just like that, the moment shattered. I withdrew my calloused fingers, badges of decades of honest work, and tucked them beneath the table. Denise checked her watch. We should head back to change. We have dinner reservations at 7. Reservations? Where? I hadn't heard about dinner plans. This seafood place by the river. Super exclusive. Don't worry, we'll split the check. As the waiter brought our bill, I reached for my purse, but Denise placed her hand on mine. You got breakfast and this snack. Let us handle dinner. That's fair, right? It sounded fair. It sounded like maybe things were shifting. But as we left the cafe, I overheard Tiana whispering to Brielle. Mom said Auntie's card is covering everything anyway. Might as well let her think we're paying tonight. My steps faltered. The shopping bags suddenly felt heavier. Back at the Airbnb, I retreated to my room, claiming a headache. Instead of resting, I opened my banking app. There it was, a pending charge for riverfront restaurant reservation, $75 deposit. On my card. They'd made dinner reservations using my payment information. How? Then I remembered. I'd used the Airbnb's tablet to check my email yesterday. I must have stayed logged into my accounts. While I was cooking breakfast, one of them had accessed my information. The violation felt like a physical blow. This wasn't thoughtlessness. This was calculated. I closed my eyes, wondering what Mama would advise. Would she still expect me to turn the other cheek? To give until there was nothing left? My phone buzzed with an email from Renee. Vendor list for tasting expanded. 20 dishes minimum expected. Need to confirm your attendance by Friday. Friday. Tomorrow. With prep time dwindling and my savings being drained for a vacation where I was clearly unwanted, something had to give. The bathroom door opened, and I heard Denise on the phone in the hallway. Yeah, she's covering everything, she was saying. Paying for it all like always. We'll be back Sunday night, unless... Hold on. Her voice dropped. Unless we decide to leave early. Why waste a day watching her cook and take pictures of old buildings? The pieces clicked together. This trip wasn't about bonding. It was about using me, my home for the drive, my money for the accommodations, my car for transportation, and then discarding me when I was no longer useful. I stood in my bedroom, hands shaking, faced with a choice I'd avoided for decades: confront the parasitic relationship that was bleeding me dry, or continue the charade for 2 more days. Either way, something had to change. And it needed to start with dinner tonight. The restaurant glittered with chandelier light and old money. White tablecloths, crystal glasses, waitstaff in crisp black and white. My simple dress, the nicest I'd packed, felt woefully inadequate next to Denise's designer outfit and the girls' trendy ensembles. "Reservation for Taylor?" Denise announced at the hostess stand. My maiden name, not hers. Another small erasure of my identity. As we were escorted to our table, the hostess smiled. "Enjoy your meal. The deposit has been applied to your bill." "What deposit?" Denise asked innocently. "The reservation required a $75 deposit. It will be deducted from your final total." I caught Denise's quick glance in my direction, gauging whether I'd heard. I pretended to be absorbed in the decor. The meal proceeded like a choreographed dance. They ordered cocktails, appetizers, entrees, and desserts with casual disregard for prices. I selected a modest dish, my appetite diminished by the knowledge that despite their promises, I would be paying for everything. Halfway through dinner, their phones chimed simultaneously. "Oh my God," Tiana squealed. "Zeke's throwing a party at his beach house tomorrow. Everyone's going." "Zeke?" I asked. "Who's that?" "This guy Tiana went to high school with," Brielle explained. "He's got a place on Tybee Island." "That's 40 minutes away," I pointed out. "We're supposed to tour the historic district tomorrow." "Plans change, Auntie," Denise said with artificial sweetness. "The girls should enjoy their youth." But we agreed. "It's just one day," she cut me off. "You can do your history tour alone. You prefer that anyway, don't you? No one rushing you." It was framed as consideration, but the message was clear. My preferences didn't matter. My carefully planned itinerary, researched for weeks, was disposable. As I sipped my water, I noticed Brielle watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it guilt? For a moment, I thought she might speak up, might acknowledge the unfairness. But she looked away, silent complicity in her mother's manipulation. When the bill arrived, $342 plus gratuity, Denise made a show of reaching for her purse. "We said we'd cover dinner," she announced loudly. Then came the performance I should have anticipated. The theatrical search through her bag. The frown. The checked pockets. "I must have left my wallet at the Airbnb," she said, feigning distress. Girls. Identical performances from Tiana and Brielle. Empty purses. Apologetic shrugs. "We'll pay you back tomorrow," Denise promised as I silently handed my credit card to the waiter. Walking back to the Airbnb, I lagged behind, watching them laugh and take photos beneath the moonlit Spanish moss. From this distance, they looked like any happy family enjoying a vacation. No observer would guess the emotional carnage beneath the surface. Later that night, unable to sleep, I stood on the rooftop deck alone. The Savannah skyline twinkled with lights that blurred through my unshed tears. 30 years of putting others first had left me hollow. My business, the one thing truly mine, was at risk because I'd prioritized this trip over preparation for the tasting event. "Auntie, you okay?" I turned to find Brielle in the doorway, hair wrapped in a silk scarf, face scrubbed clean of makeup. Without her mother's influence, she looked younger, more vulnerable. "Just enjoying the view," I lied, quickly wiping my eyes. She stepped closer. "Tomorrow's beach thing. I don't have to go. I could do your tour instead." Hope flickered like a candle in wind. "You'd do that?" "Maybe." She hesitated. "I mean, if you wanted to cover my part of the Uber back from Tybee later. Mom says I should start paying my own way more." And there it was. Not compassion, just another transaction. "Of course," I said, the flicker extinguished. "What time will you need the money?" "Like, before breakfast? We're leaving early." She didn't wait for my response, already turning back toward the stairs. "Night, Auntie. Don't stay up too late. You look tired." Alone again, I made a decision. Opening my banking app, I scrolled through recent transactions. The evidence was undeniable. $75, restaurant deposit. $218, shopping boutique. $46, cafe lunch. $342 dinner. And now they wanted Uber money for tomorrow. All on top of the Airbnb cost. I hadn't just enabled this behavior, I'd cultivated it with years of acquiescence. The painful truth crashed down. My sister and nieces didn't value me. They valued what I provided. And once the providing stopped, what would be left of our relationship? My phone pinged with a final email from Renee. Urgent. Must confirm tasting participation by noon tomorrow. Prep schedule attached. I stared at the detailed list of requirements. 20 specialty dishes. Equipment needs. Staffing. This opportunity could transform my business, if I had time to prepare. Suddenly, the pieces aligned in my mind. Denise's whispered phone call about leaving early. Their beach plans. The borrowed money never meant to be repaid. Tomorrow they would leave for Tybee Island, likely with no intention of returning to the Airbnb. Why would they? Once they'd extracted maximum value from my presence, I became superfluous. I leaned against the rooftop railing, a strange calm replacing my hurt. For decades, I'd played the role of dutiful sister, generous aunt, family ATM. Tomorrow, they expected the same Auntie Laurie, reaching for her wallet with a resigned smile. But tomorrow, they would discover I was capable of making different choices. And those choices would begin the moment they left for the beach. I went inside and began to pack my belongings, methodically and quietly. In the morning, I would need to be ready. Morning arrived with the cheerful chirping of my phone alarm. 6:30 a.m., early by vacation standards, but necessary for what I needed to accomplish before they woke. I showered quickly, dressed in my most comfortable clothes, and quietly made my way to the kitchen. If this was to be our last full day together, I'd make it memorable. I prepared my famous peach French toast, the dish Tiana and Brielle had loved as children, before designer labels and social media followers became their priority. The kitchen filled with cinnamon and vanilla as I worked, muscle memory guiding my hands. By 8 a.m., the table was set with a breakfast spread worthy of a magazine feature. I'd just poured myself coffee when I heard movement upstairs. Footsteps. Whispers. The unmistakable zip of suitcases. They appeared in the kitchen doorway, fully dressed, bags packed, and froze at the sight of me standing there. Going somewhere? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Denise recovered first. Oh, you're up early. We were going to leave you a note. A note, I repeated. For what exactly? The beach thing got moved up, Tiana explained, not quite meeting my eyes. Zeke wants everyone there by noon. So you're leaving? With all your luggage? Brielle shifted uncomfortably. We might stay overnight. Easier than coming back here. The breakfast I'd prepared sat untouched, steam still rising from the plates. 3 days of meals cooked, cleaned up, and barely acknowledged. And when were you planning to return? I asked. Tomorrow afternoon, Denise said quickly. Too quickly. In time to pack up and drive home. You don't mind, right? You can do your history tour thing. Have the place to yourself. I gestured to the table. I made breakfast. Tiana glanced at her phone. We're already running late. Uber's 5 minutes out. Can we take it to go? Brielle asked, the first hint of genuine regret in her voice. Sure, I said, reaching for paper plates. To go. Like everything else I give you. The comment hung in the air, a declaration of war in 6 simple words. Denise's eyes narrowed. What's that supposed to mean? Years of suppressed feelings bubbled to the surface. It means you take and take and take. Never giving back. Never saying thank you. Just taking whatever I offer and disappearing until you need more. That's not fair, Denise protested. We're family. We help each other. Help. I laughed, the sound harsh even to my ears. When have you ever helped me, Denise? Name one time. She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. I watched your cat when you went to that cooking class in Charlotte. My cat died 5 years ago, I said quietly. You didn't even call when it happened. The kitchen fell silent except for the ticking of the vintage wall clock. We appreciate everything you do, Denise finally said, her voice slipping into the placating tone she used when asking for money. You know we love you. Love isn't just words, Denise. It's actions. It's respect. I folded my arms across my chest. This trip cost me over $3,000. Money I needed for my business. And you were just going to leave without a word. We're coming back tomorrow, Tiana insisted, though her eyes darted to the exit. It's not like we're abandoning you. Aren't you? I challenged. Be honest for once. Were you planning to come back here at all? Their silence was my answer. The Uber's here, Brielle announced, relief evident in her voice. Denise stepped forward, laying her hand on my arm. Laurie, you're overreacting. We'll talk about this when we get back, okay? Enjoy your quiet time. Relax. They grabbed the to-go containers I'd prepared and hustled toward the door, the conversation clearly over in their minds. Crisis averted. Auntie Laurie put back in her place. Wait, I called. You'll need money for the Uber back tomorrow. Denise brightened. That would be helpful, yes. I reached for my purse, pulled out $80, money I'd withdrawn specifically for this charade, and handed it to her. Thank you, she said, the words hollow from overuse. See you tomorrow afternoon. The door closed behind them. Through the window, I watched them climb into the waiting car, already laughing about something on Tiana's phone. No backward glance at the house. No wave goodbye. I sat heavily at the kitchen table, surrounded by the breakfast they deemed unworthy of their time. The quiet of the empty house pressed against my eardrums. For 3 hours, I remained there, cycling through emotions like stations on a radio. Hurt, anger, embarrassment, self-pity. Each feeling washed over me, demanding its moment before yielding to the next. My phone chimed with a text from Renee, need confirmation for tasting by 2 p.m. latest. With trembling fingers, I pulled up my banking app. Another charge had appeared overnight, premium rideshare $95. They'd used my card for their Uber to the beach. Of course they had. The final indignity broke something loose inside me. I walked methodically through the house, opening drawers, checking shelves. In Tiana's room, I found receipts for shopping sprees, all on my card. In Denise's nightstand, a handwritten list, Airbnb, food, activities, transportation with my name next to each item. This hadn't been spontaneous. It had been calculated from the start. I returned to the kitchen and dialed Renee. I'll be back tomorrow, I told her. I can do the tasting. What about your family trip? She asked. They left, I said simply. Abandoned me at the Airbnb. Those ungrateful, she stopped herself. I'm sorry, Laurie. What can I do? I looked around at the beautiful house I'd emptied my account to rent. At the food I'd prepared with love that would now be thrown away. At the tickets for tours that would go unused. Nothing, I answered. Because I know exactly what needs to happen next. The transformation happened somewhere between clearing the breakfast dishes and opening my laptop. The weight of hurt lifted, replaced by clarity so sharp it almost hurt to breathe. For decades, I'd been a supporting character in my own life story. The reliable aunt, the generous sister, the human ATM. Today, I would become the protagonist. First, I called the Airbnb host. I need to check out early, I explained. Family emergency. I'm sorry to hear that, he said. Unfortunately, the cancellation policy doesn't allow refunds within 48 hours of booking. I understand. I'm not asking for a refund. I paused. But I do need to confirm something. My credit card is the only one authorized for charges, correct? Yes, ma'am. All charges go to the booking card. Perfect. Next, I called the bank. 30 minutes and 3 supervisors later, I had confirmation. My card would be flagged for suspicious activity after 3 p.m. Any charges attempted after that time would be declined. My third call was to Renee. I need a favor, I began. Name it, she replied without hesitation. Renee had been with me from the early days of my business, washing dishes for minimum wage when we could barely afford ingredients. She'd watched Denise and her daughters take advantage for years, holding her tongue out of respect for me. I need you to prep for tomorrow's tasting. I'll drive back tonight, but I might not arrive until late. Already on it, she said. I figured you might need backup. There's something else you should know. That wedding venue? They're looking for a full-time dessert provider. Exclusive contract. The opportunity was even bigger than I'd realized. Why didn't you tell me? You were so excited about this family trip, she said gently. I didn't want to add pressure. Tears welled in my eyes, not from sadness this time, but gratitude. Someone in my life valued me enough to protect me, even from myself. There's more, Renee continued. Remember Gabby from Johnson Events? She called asking about Tiana. Said she applied for an internship claiming she helps run your business. Wanted to verify her experience. Another lie. Another exploitation of my name, my reputation, my years of hard work. What did you tell her? That I needed to check our records, Renee said. I'm waiting on your instructions. The moral dilemma surfaced like a submarine breaking water. Did I expose Tiana's lie and potentially harm her future? Or maintain the family fiction at my own expense? For so long, I would have chosen family loyalty without question. Today felt different. Today, consequences seemed not just necessary, but overdue. Tell Gabby the truth, I decided. Tiana has never worked for me in any capacity. Task by task, I dismantled the infrastructure of enablement I'd built over decades. I logged into my cell phone account and removed Denise and the girls from my family plan. I cancelled the automatic payments I'd set up for Brielle's car insurance. I removed my credit card from the accounts they'd linked it to, shopping sites, food delivery services, streaming platforms. With each digital severance, my shoulders straightened a little more. My breathing deepened. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. By noon, I had packed my belongings, cleaned the kitchen, and loaded my car. I took one final walk through the beautiful Airbnb I'd paid for but barely enjoyed. In the master bathroom, I found Denise's expensive face creams, products she insisted she needed while claiming poverty. In Tiana's room, shopping bags still contained items with tags attached. Impulse buys she'd likely forget about within days. In Brielle's room, a journal lay open on the nightstand. I shouldn't have looked. But after a lifetime of being taken for granted, perhaps I'd earned one small invasion of privacy. The entry was dated yesterday. Auntie looked so sad on the roof tonight. Mom says we should be nicer to her because she pays for everything. But then she laughed and said Auntie's too proud to ever cut us off. She needs to be needed, Mom said. That's her weakness. My weakness. As if kindness were something to exploit rather than appreciate. Before leaving, I took photos of the clean, empty house, documentation that I'd left everything in perfect order. Then I sent a single message to our family group chat. I've checked out of the Airbnb early. Needed back in Atlanta for a business opportunity. House is paid through Sunday as promised. Your access codes remain active. Enjoy your beach day. No accusations. No emotional appeals. Just facts. As an afterthought, I added, P.S. You might want to bring a credit card when you return. Mine seems to be experiencing technical difficulties. I placed the house keys on the kitchen counter, closed the door behind me, and drove away without looking back. By the time they returned from their beach excursion, sunburned, tipsy, and expecting the same accommodations they'd left behind, they would discover exactly what happens when you mistake kindness for weakness once too often. The calls began at 8:17 p.m. as I crossed the Georgia state line toward home. First Denise, then Tiana, then Brielle. I let them go to voicemail, focusing on the highway stretching before me. The messages piled up, their tone evolving with each one. Confusion, Lori? We're back at the house but you're not here. Call me. Irritation, Auntie, what do you mean your card is having difficulties? The restaurant won't accept our payment. Anger, this isn't funny, Lori. We're stuck here without dinner money. Call me back now. Panic, the Airbnb host is saying the reservation was modified. We can't get back in. Where are you? I imagined Denise standing outside the luxury rental, designer purse in hand, realizing for perhaps the first time in her adult life that actions have consequences. That her sister, her personal safety net, had finally reached her limit. From Denise's perspective, this betrayal would seem sudden and cruel. She wouldn't recognize the 1,000 paper cuts that had preceded it, the birthdays forgotten, the condescending comments, the financial exploitation disguised as family obligation. In her mind, I existed to serve her needs. My business was a hobby. My savings were her emergency fund. My home was her backup plan. I pulled into a rest stop, finally ready to listen to the voicemails. Denise's latest message was pure manipulation. I don't know what's gotten into you, but Brielle is crying. Is that what you wanted? To make your niece cry? Mom would be so disappointed in you right now. Mom. The ultimate weapon. I closed my eyes, remembering Mama's weathered hands folding mine around Denise's as she lay in her hospital bed. Look after your sister, she'd whispered. Had she meant for looking after to become a lifetime sentence? For me to sacrifice my own well-being at the altar of Denise's endless needs? I doubted it. My phone rang again, Brielle this time. After a moment's hesitation, I answered. Auntie. Her voice was small, lacking its usual confidence. Yes, Brielle. Where are you? We can't get back into the Airbnb. All our stuff is inside. I modified the reservation to check out early, I explained calmly. I needed to return to Atlanta for a business opportunity. But, our clothes. My makeup. We need those things. I'm sure the host will let you gather your belongings, I said. But you'll need to make other arrangements for the night. A pause then, we don't have money for a hotel. Mom's card is maxed out. Of course it was. Denise's financial irresponsibility was legendary. Designer clothes purchased while electric bills went unpaid. What about the $80 I gave you for the Uber? I asked. Another pause. Mom spent it at the beach. I heard muffled voices, then Denise came on the line. What is wrong with you? She hissed. You abandoned us without warning. The irony was almost comical. Like you were planning to abandon me tomorrow? That was different. We were coming back. Were you? I challenged. Because I found the list in your room, Denise. The one with my name next to every expense. You planned this whole trip knowing I would pay for everything. Silence, then. So this is punishment? For what? Letting you treat us to a vacation. This is consequences, I corrected. For years of taking without gratitude. For teaching your daughters that I'm nothing but a walking wallet. That's not true. We love you. Love is respect, Denise. And you haven't respected me in years. I heard Tiana in the background. Tell her to turn her card back on. We need to eat. Always the demands, never the gratitude. I have to go, I said. I have preparation for tomorrow's tasting event. Your catering thing is more important than your family? Denise's voice rose in disbelief. My business is my livelihood, I replied. Something you've never understood or respected. I ended the call as Denise launched into another tirade. Minutes later, texts flooded in, accusations, guilt trips, and finally threats. Mom says she'll tell everyone what you did, Tiana wrote. Abandoning family on vacation. What will your church friends think? I smiled grimly. Let them tell whatever story made them feel better. The truth had receipts, literally. As I pulled back onto the highway, my phone rang once more. Brielle again. Auntie, I'm sorry, she said immediately. About everything. I know we treated you badly. I waited, expecting the manipulation to follow. The request for money disguised as an apology. Instead, she said, I told Mom and Tiana I'm getting an Uber to the bus station. I'm coming back to Atlanta tonight. With what money? I asked. I have some saved, she admitted. From the checks you sent for my birthday. I never spent them. For the first time all day, genuine emotion cracked my resolve. Perhaps one small bridge remained unburned. Text me when you get to the station, I said. I'll send you my location. The next morning, as I prepared for the tasting event, my security system alerted me to someone at the door. Through the camera, I saw Denise, makeup smeared, clothes wrinkled, eyes wild with fury. Open up, Laurie, she shouted, pounding on the door. You can't hide from me. Behind me, Brielle froze in the kitchen doorway, spatula in hand. Mom found us, she whispered. The final confrontation had arrived sooner than expected. And on today of all days, when my business future hung in the balance. Stay here, I told Brielle. Let me handle this. I squared my shoulders and moved toward the door, prepared for the storm that awaited on the other side. The moment I opened the door, Denise burst in like a hurricane, all wild energy and destructive force. How dare you? She shouted, pushing past me into the foyer. How dare you turn my own daughter against me? Drive off and leave us stranded. She stopped short at the sight of my kitchen, workstations prepared with ingredients, pastry bags lined up, Renee efficiently assembling sample boxes. What is all this? She demanded. Work, I answered simply. The tasting event I told you about. The one you dismissed as unimportant. Denise scoffed. So you abandoned your family for cupcakes? From the kitchen doorway, Brielle spoke up. They're not just cupcakes, Mom. This could be a huge contract for Auntie's business. Denise whirled toward her daughter. You. Get your things. We're leaving. Brielle didn't move. No. One syllable. So small, yet so powerful. I'd never heard Brielle refuse her mother anything. What did you say to me? Denise's voice dropped dangerously. I said no. Brielle's hands trembled, but her voice held steady. I'm staying to help Auntie with her tasting. It's important. Denise turned back to me, eyes narrowed. What did you do? What lies did you tell her? The truth isn't a lie, Denise. I kept my voice calm, though my heart raced. I simply stopped hiding it. You had no right to cut off our phones. To cancel Brielle's insurance. To leave us stranded without money. I had every right, I countered. Those were my resources, freely given and consistently taken for granted. I simply reclaimed them. Denise's face contorted. After everything I've been through. Stop. I held up my hand. We've all been through things, Denise. The difference is how we respond to hardship. You've chosen to use it as an excuse to take. I've used it as motivation to build. You think you're so perfect? She spat. So self-sufficient? You'll get old and die alone, Laurie. At least I have my daughters. I glanced at Brielle, still standing her ground in the kitchen doorway. Do you? Or do you have people you've trained to need you financially while resenting you emotionally? The question landed like a physical blow. Denise staggered slightly, hand reaching for the wall to steady herself. I need that insurance money, she whispered, strategy shifting from attack to vulnerability. I need the phone plan. The girls need those things. Then it's time you provided them, I said gently. You're capable, Denise. You've just found it easier to lean on me. And if I can't? You can, I insisted. But even if you struggle, it won't be my responsibility anymore. That's what changed in Savannah. Not my love for you, my willingness to enable behavior that harms us both. Denise's shoulders slumped. The fight drained from her posture, leaving behind something I rarely saw, reality. The mask of entitlement slipped, revealing the scared woman beneath. You're really done with us, she said flatly. I'm done with patterns that hurt everyone involved, I corrected. Including you. We stood in silence, decades of sisterhood stretching between us, some beautiful, some painful, all complicated. Finally, Denise straightened. Tiana's waiting in the car. Tell Brielle to call me when she's ready to come home. No tearful reconciliation. No dramatic promises to change. Just a quiet acknowledgement that something fundamental had shifted. After she left, Brielle and I worked side by side preparing for the tasting. Her inexperienced hands learning from mine, her questions thoughtful, her presence a bridge between who I'd been and who I was becoming. The tasting event exceeded every expectation. The venue owner signed an exclusive contract on the spot. One that would double my business income within 6 months. As we packed up our display, she pulled me aside. I've been watching you for years, she confessed. Waiting for you to recognize your worth. It's about time. Driving home, Brielle asked the question I'd been expecting. Will you and Mom ever be okay again? I don't know, I answered honestly. That depends on choices she hasn't made yet. And me? Are we okay? I reached across the console to squeeze her hand. We're finding our way to a healthier relationship. That's better than okay, that's growth. 2 months later, my business was thriving. The exclusive contract had led to others. I'd hired 2 assistants, purchased new equipment, and even begun renovations on a dedicated kitchen space. Brielle had moved into my spare bedroom, temporarily, she claimed, though her growing collection of baking books suggested otherwise. She worked part-time at my shop, saving for college courses in business management. Denise remained distant. Occasional texts, stilted phone calls on holidays. Tiana, following her mother's lead, had blocked my number entirely. The severing hadn't been clean or painless. Some nights I still woke up questioning my choices, hearing Mama's voice urging me to care for my sister. But then I'd remember the Airbnb, standing alone in those empty rooms, realizing I'd been financing my own erasure for years. That memory always steadied me. One Tuesday afternoon, I returned home to find Brielle baking in my kitchen. Not for work, but for pleasure. The scent of vanilla and cinnamon filled the air, reminiscent of countless family gatherings. I found Grandma's recipe box in the attic, she explained. Thought I'd try her pound cake. As we sat together sampling her creation, I realized I'd gained something far more valuable than what I'd lost in Savannah. Not just self-respect or financial boundaries, but a genuine connection based on mutual care rather than obligation. You know what's funny? Brielle said, licking frosting from her finger. Mom always said you needed us more than we needed you. But it was the opposite all along. I nodded, the truth of it settling comfortably around my shoulders like a familiar shawl. Sometimes the people who take the most convince themselves they're giving. Do you regret it? She asked. Walking away that day? No, I answered without hesitation. I regret waiting so long to do it. So when I tell you, they abandoned me at the Airbnb, unaware I'd paid for it all. That night, I made my move. Understand, this wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my life, my worth, my future. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved because loving them was destroying you? Where are you watching from today? Let me know in the comments below. Because sometimes the hardest family stories are the ones we need to hear most. The ones that give us permission to choose ourselves when no one else will.